Driving up, anything. Driving up, driving up, anything. Driving up, anything. Driving up, anything. Oluwa bona, yeah, 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 yeah. This one I better do with the jabata. Me, I no get time, I did da ba da. Dada cover my face, calling me la ba da. Biggie man, we know they wear a ba da. Tell me, my nigga, what's it gon' G-Wagon, all the Bentley, they kill them, ride the whip, I no fit, die for nothing. My nigga, what's it gon' be? G-Wagon, all the Bentley, they kill them, ride the whip, I no fit, die for nothing. Make you no say anything when you do, they must commend it. I can't come and keep myself. So anything when I do, I they try to do on my way. I can't come and keep myself. Plenty so far we face. Just to make sure money day. But my people then go say I know one buy, I know one die, I know one payment. I want enjoy, I want job life, I want buy motor, I want build house, I still want to know. Tell me, my nigga, what's it gon' G-Wagon, all the Bentley, they kill them, ride the whip, I no fit, die for nothing. My nigga, what's it gon' be? G-Wagon, all the Bentley, they kill them, ride the whip, I no fit. Different things them happening, schemes and packaging. In a one night for shows I'm juggling. Flow like the ocean, my boat I'm paddling. Sharashina Pella, that's my bro, my family. Frozen dreams. When it comes to money, I they concentrate. Make I tell you straight, you are not my mate. If you become a I be head of state. But my people then go say I know one buy, I know one die, I know one payment. I want enjoy, I want job life, I want buy motor, I want build house, I still want to know. Tell me, my nigga, what's it gon' be? G-Wagon, all the Bentley, they kill them, ride the whip, I no fit, die for nothing. My nigga, what's it gon' be? G-Wagon, all the Bentley, they kill them, ride the whip, I no fit, die for nothing. Oluwa bona, yeah, 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 yeah,
Hear the drums echoing tonight, and she hears only whispers of some quiet conversation. She's coming in 12:30 flight. The moonlit wings reflect the stars that guide me towards salvation. I stopped an old man along the way, hoping to find some old forgotten words or ancient melodies. He turned to me as if to say, hurry boy, it's waiting there for you. It's gonna take a lot to drag me away from you. There's nothing that 100 men or more could ever do. dogs cry out in the night as they grow restless, longing for some solitary company. I know that I must do what's right, sure as Kilimanjaro rises like Olympus above the Serengeti. I seek to cure what's deep inside, frightened of this thing that I've become. Gonna take a lot to drag me away from you. There's nothing that 100 men or more could ever do. I guess the rain's down in Africa. We're gonna take some time to do the things we never
tout a changé de côté, oh. Maribana, elle a changé de côté, oh. Nangere, nangere, wa. Nangere, nangere, wa. Nangere, nangere, wa. Nangere, nangere, wa. Dieu merci pour moi, je savais chanter un peu, oh. J'ai fait ma cassette, oh. On peut voir la télé, oh. Matin, midi, soir, c'est moi, je chante à la radio. Antoine Israël, tu le Kaou a percé, oh. Attends, je vais partir le couper, oh. Mais on dit premier Kaou n'est pas Kaou, oh. C'est deuxième Kaou qui est Nyata, oh. On dit premier Kaou n'est pas Kaou, oh. C'est deuxième Kaou qui est Nyata, oh. Dimanche matin et coco, on frappe à ma porte, oh. À ma grande surprise, oh, c'est la go en tout, je vois, oh. Assemblage, j'ai dit, oh, y'a longtemps, on s'est plus revu, oh. Elle veut me mentir, oh, elle dit, chérie, j'avais voyagé, oh. Je suis de retour, oh. Je t'appartiens, oh. Prends-moi cadeau, oh. Fais ce que tu veux, oh. Mais on dit, premier Gaou n'est pas Gaou, oh. pressé oh. Tant on te dit premier Gaou n'est pas Gaou oh. C'est deuxième Gaou qui est Nyata oh. J'ai dit chérie Kokwe, c'est poulet tu veux manger oh. Poulet est trop petit oh, ça peut pas te rassasier oh. C'est Caïma pressé oh, je vais te donner oh. Les genoux d'éléphant oh, tu vas manger oh. Nangere nangere wa, nangere nangere wa. Elle est fâchée, elle s'en va à la maison. Si elle va à la maison, population va me tuer oh. Je lui ai demandé pardon et elle a accepté oh. À un moment donné, elle a tout gâté oh. Elle est quittée dans le poulet, elle s'en va dans le loco. Ici c'est à loco, c'est pas compliqué oh. C'est plantation de bananes oh. Tu vas griller oh. Au lieu de fourchettes oh, ça peut pas bien piquer oh. C'est avec râteau oh. Tu vas manger oh. Nangere nangere wa, nangere nangere wa, nangere nangere wa, nangere nangere wa. Mais on dit premier Gaou n'est pas Gaou oh. C'est deuxième Gaou qui est Nyata oh. Marque Gaou oh, Blécoute Gaou oh. Sorokyo Gaou oh, Sabindo So Gaou oh. Angelo Gaou oh, Totorino Gaou oh. Eda Nyata oh, Tiefi Nyata oh. Kade Nyata oh, Kade Kouma Nyata oh. Eda Nyata oh, Gracie Michel Gaou oh. Emile Gaou oh, Bobo Kema Gaou oh. Honoré Gaou oh, j'ai dit qui danse oh. Regarde ta science oh, j'ai dit qui danse oh. Nangere nangere wa oh, qui danse oh. On dit premier Gaou n'est pas Gaou oh. C'est deuxième Gaou qui est Nyata oh. On dit premier Gaou n'est pas Gaou oh. C'est deuxième Gaou qui est Nyata oh.
Quem mostrava esse caminho longe, quem mostrava esse caminho longe, esse caminho passando meio. Quem mostrava esse caminho longe, quem mostrava esse caminho longe, esse caminho passando meio. Saudade, saudade, saudades minha terra, San Inclau. Saudade, saudade, saudades minha terra, San Inclau. Quem mostrava esse caminho longe, quem mostrava esse caminho longe, esse caminho passando meio. Quem mostrava esse caminho longe, quem mostrava esse caminho longe, esse caminho passando meio. Saudade, saudade, saudades minha terra, San Inclau. Saudade, saudade, saudades minha terra, San Inclau. Se vou escrever, muito a escrever, se vou esquecer, muito a esquecer, até dia que vou voltar. Se vou escrever, muito a escrever, se vou esquecer, muito a esquecer, até dia que vou voltar. Saudade, saudade, saudades minha terra, San Inclau. enclave. Saudade, desse minha terra sem enclave. Saudade, desse minha terra sem enclave.
Hello everyone, it's that time of year where we gather to celebrate the best in African banking. I'm Henry Bonsu and it's my privilege to host this ceremony once again, virtually this time instead of from Busan, Ahmedabad, Abidjan, Kigali, Lusaka, or any of the other great locations where the African Development Bank has held its annual meetings. This year, the official country host for the meetings is Ghana. And yes, the organizers have decided to bring back their favorite Ghanaian, moi, Monsieur Bonsu, from Ghana's golden region of Kumasi, land of my forefathers. Tonight, we're here to celebrate the golden achievers in African banking. And I'm delighted to welcome the publisher of African Banker magazine, co-founder of the African Banker Awards, long-standing friend, and the man responsible for occasionally leading me astray, Mr. Omar Ben Yedda. Omar, greetings.
Henry.
Let's do what we call the Woon Hand Shuffle. Remember that?
Bienvenue chez vous. We call it the JJ Okocha Shuffle.
I'm not sure people are still doing that. Let's get to business, though. 2020 was a very difficult year for the global economy. But what about African banking? How did it fare?
I think pretty well, actually. What we saw was collaboration from ministers of finance coming together with a clear common goal, clear purpose, and I believe they delivered. We saw resilience and agility from the banking sector, supporting their clients and their customers. And we saw central banks providing liquidity and the regulatory headspace for banks to be able to support the real economy. So on the whole, commendable, very well. And looking back at it, I would say fantastic.
So that's the broad picture. What about specific trends? Did you see any emerging?
For sure. What we definitely saw was digitization or digital transformation within banking. We saw banks being very innovative. They've been innovative for many years, but we really saw their innovations come to life and accelerating their innovative processes and innovation. So that's fantastic. Fintechs are really the flavor of the year. We've seen plenty of money from the VCs, from the private equity world, going into the fintech space in Egypt, in Kenya, in Nigeria. And really, to some extent, crypto and blockchains, although that's pretty early stages. So I believe that one of our nominees today is a good friend of mine, Mamadou Touré's Ubuntu Tribe. Mm-hmm. He's been at it for a while, and he's recently signed some interesting partnerships. But again, crypto and blockchain, we'll see that in future years, I believe. So digitization, innovation, and fintechs are the three trends.
Excellent. So African Banker Awards 2021, what can we expect from the ceremony?
Other than some great and fantastic emceeing from our host, Henry Bonsu. We're both double vaccinated. I won't get too close, but I hope we're going to get some high culture in the shape of Angelique Kidjo, who will infuse us with her energy and positivity. And throughout the ceremony, we're going to hear from some leaders in banking and finance, and I myself are interested in hearing their perspectives and insights.
So Omar, we couldn't do any of this without the sponsors. It's important to stress that. Tell us a bit more about the people we've partnered with this year.
Well, I'd like to thank all our sponsors and everyone who's actually supported us in the past year and throughout the years, actually. We couldn't do it without you. So, of course, the African Development Bank, who are the development bank par excellence on the continent, who have provided a $10 billion facility to support the COVID recovery and to help build back better. The African Guarantee Fund, who have created a benchmark and a blueprint in terms of SME lending that they're replicating for women or lending to women-led businesses and women entrepreneurs.
Gender empowerment. Yeah.
And gender empowerment, absolutely. Working with the AFDB on that. So they're managing their FAWA fund. The Bank of Industry, who last year went to market twice, once for a $1 billion facility, another for a €1 billion facility. And they're using those funds for some concessional lending to the industrial base in Nigeria. And we know that the industrialization is going to be very important if we're going to get a successful result or outcome from the AFCFTA. Banque de Développement du Mali, that has managed to do fantastic things in difficult circumstances, and actually they managed to double their capital base last year in Mali, and are actually expanding regionally, opening a subsidiary in Senegal. And last but not least, our technology partner, TagPay, who managed to implement a new solution for a Mauritanian bank last year, doing this all remotely through a cloud-operated solution. I had the privilege to speak to their CEO last week, and yeah, so they're helping those banks with that digital innovation and transformation that I was telling you about.
Brilliant, Omar. It's really good that we've been able to assemble this level of partnership in the year of a pandemic. Okay, almost time for the awards, but first, time for a bit of entertainment with fellow Ghanaian Adina and her band, who are going to be giving us their rendition of an African classic.
Hello everyone, my name is Adina Thembe. Sakukuga satigeba nati patapa. Sakukuga satigeba nati patapa. Sakukuga satigeba nati patapa. Sakukuga satigeba nati patapa. Iyo mama nati patapa. Iyo mama nati patapa. Iyo mama nati patapa. Iyo mama nati patapa. Hit me. Woo. Sakukuga satigeba. Sakukuga satigeba. Sakukuga satigeba. Oh, sakukuga satigeba. Ana iyo mama nati patapa. Hear me, mama, hear me now. Nati patapa. Iyo mama nati patapa. Iyo mama nati patapa. High lifetime. Hey, bye. Bye-bye. Scooby-Doo, Scooby-Doo. Yeah. Everybody get on now. Nati patapa. It's the latest thing in town. Nati patapa. Clap your hands and feel the groove. Nati patapa. It's pata everywhere. Nati patapa. I feel patapa. Hear me, mama, hear me now. I feel patapa. I feel patapa. Hear me, mama, hear me now. I feel patapa.
Thank you very much to Adina and her band for that wonderful performance of Pata Pata by the legendary Miriam Makeba. You've set us up wonderfully for the awards and left us wanting more, which we'll be providing later on in the programme.
More than hopes, work. More than inspiring words, solutions. More than declarations, actions. More than predicaments, answers. More than desires, objectives. More than rebuilding, upgrading. Move forward, step forward, build forward. Beyond nostalgia, we strive for resilience, drive, and ambition. Yes, everything has changed, and more is to come. The most challenging times of our lives. The most well-prepared generation of Africa now comes together. Because together, we are building resilient economies in post-COVID-19 Africa. Join us for the 2021 African Development Bank's virtual annual meetings from June 23rd to June 25th. Register today, am.afdb.org.
Right, let's get to our first award, and it's for Sustainable Bank of the Year. It's a new category. Omar, tell us why.
Hi, Henry. So every year, the awards committee sits down and says, we review the award categories and we see, should we adapt some, should we change some, should we add some new ones? So this year we looked at some of the previous categories, and CSR was one that we've had since the beginning.
CSR meaning?
Corporate social responsibility.
Right, okay, it's always important to get the jargon in there.
So what we decided to do is to adapt that, or develop it, let's say, and really the word that stands out is sustainability. So when you talk to investment bankers and bankers in general, there's a greater focus on ESG. So
ESG, see, Omar loves his jargon. ESG means what?
Environmental, social, and governance criteria.
Governance, yeah.
Governance criteria. So we decided to rather than just look at CSR, to look at sustainability in a wider sense. So sustainability in terms of what they're doing with their stakeholders, in terms of what they're doing in terms of their environmental credentials, and to building a sustainable future for the wider community. So
right.
So hence why we added this category this year.
All right. Well, let's have a look at the nominees. We congratulate them all, of course, and we'll find out the winner. And it's a warm and hearty congratulations to CIB Egypt, Sustainable Bank of the Year. Now, the next award will go to the infrastructure deal, which has made the most significant impact. This meets one of the African Development Bank's high fives, Integrating Africa. Let's have a look at the nominees and the winner. Congratulations to Nedbank, Standard Bank and Trade and Development Bank for the Tanzania Standard Gauge Railway deal. Now for the award for Deal of the Year on the equity side. And the nominees for this category are Bravo, FBN Quest Nigeria. Now for the next award, which is Best Deal of the Year on the fixed income debt side, the nominees are excellent, and well done to Mitsubishi UFG for their innovative facility for Afreximbank. Omar, I need to pick up with you now. What do you think of the award so far? I'm talking about the winners and what we're seeing emerge from this.
Okay, I'm not sure if we're seeing emerge any trends, but
A bit early to say.
A bit early to say, indeed. But the Deal of the Year category is always an interesting one. We receive the most applications, actually, the most entries for that particular those particular categories. But what we saw, my take on it, is that we're seeing a lot of deals on the debt side, but not that many on the equity, not that many equity transactions.
Now, what does that mean? Is that worrying?
It's not worrying. It just means that that we need to take bigger, bolder risks, and there need to be more equity investments as opposed to just lending. And equity ultimately is about believing in the continent, believing in the institutions that you're investing in, and in the projects that you're investing in. So yeah, I mean, it's normal in a crisis year that you'll see possibly more risk aversion, but really in terms of making sure that we contribute to the growth of our companies and institutions and the country and the continent's development, we need to see a lot more on the equity side, and hopefully that will take place in the next few years.
So less debt and more equity. Let that message ring out loud and clear. Now, to put on an event like this requires partners, and one of ours is the African Guarantee Fund, which is helping to grow African economies and support SMEs during the current crisis. Omar caught up with its CEO, Mrs. Jules Nkankam, earlier. Let's hear what he had to say.
I'm delighted to have with me Jules Nkankam from the African Guarantee Fund. Jules, thank you very much for all your support over the years, and I'm delighted to have you here and to hear more about what you've been doing this past year. So you took over the leadership role at the African Guarantee Fund in the middle of a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic. I remember the great boxer Mike Tyson says, everyone has a plan until they get hit in the face. So really this pandemic hit all of us and surprised us all. So you must have come with a vision, with ideas in terms of where you're going to take the institution. And then all of a sudden, you're in this sort of, I don't want to say crisis management, but you're having to deal with a pandemic, and the SMEs are at stake, or the life of SMEs are at stake, the life of banks are at stake. So tell me, how has it been in terms of setting out your vision and being able to engage with your stakeholders, and to some extent having to support your stakeholders and the banks and the SMEs that you work with?
Okay. First of all, thank you for inviting me. Yes, so I took this new role in the middle of the pandemic. So I started this role, that was 1st of June of last year. I can tell you it was very challenging. Yeah, you know, this COVID pandemic has created one of the biggest challenges that SMEs and financial sector have ever faced. You know, both SMEs and banks, they were kind of affected. So what I had to do when I took the role was, first of all, to see the best way to support our partner, being the financial sector and the SMEs. So just to give you like a very quick background on what we were facing. You know, the SME, they were kind of affected both at the supply and the demand level. So on the supply side, they were kind of experiencing a huge kind of disruption. in their labor force. So, due to the confinement, to the lockdown, to the quarantine, and also the disruption on the supply chain, the logistic, the transport were all affected. So those SME, they were not able to supply good at the same level that they used to do like before the crisis. On the demand side, the SME customer, they've reduced their spending because some of those customers, they lost their job. And even the one that kept their job, they had a kind of lack of visibility. They did not know what was coming next. And because of that, they had to reduce their spending. So that has been very challenging for the SME. Now, when we talk about the banks, we saw a huge increase on the non-performing loan, weakening their capital reserve, the asset quality of their portfolio, and also their kind of position in terms of liquidity. And liquidity was like one of the biggest factors. I'll just give you a quick example. Every time an SME will kind of default on their loan, what we have to do is to start the recovery process. But how can you do this kind of recovery process during the lockdown, the confinement? So it was quite difficult, and the bank, they experienced like a lot of challenges on their liquidity. So what I had to do, first of all, was to see how we can propose a strong response to the bank and the SME to support them so that they can navigate throughout this pandemic.
Okay, and in terms of the SMEs, as you say, they've been hit hard, but you obviously had to support them so that they didn't default on their loans, also to extend the credit periods, etc. So how did you address this? And ultimately, I suppose that you had to talk to the banks and to say, look, we're here to support you, to support the SMEs, so that they can, so that you didn't act in a rash manner that would have created more problems down the road. So what was your thinking there, and what was your discussion and your narrative with the banks?
Yes, definitely. So what we did with the bank is that we structure our strategy in two phases. We say, okay, the first one will be a stabilization phase. Here we need to make sure that we keep the SME alive. And then we had a second phase that will be like a revival phase or a recovery phase. So let's start with the stabilization phase. So the plan there was to see how can we kind of restructure the existing facilities of those SME to keep them alive. So the plan was not to help the SME to grow, but to make sure that they will stay alive and they will keep their workforce. So what we did was to tell to the bank, how can we kind of work on those existing facilities? We restructure them. Either we give them a moratorium period, either we give them a kind of top-up, a liquidity to those SME, so that they can use that maybe to manage the next 3, 6, 9 months. Yeah, so we came up with some kind of idea. But again, the bank, they were in a situation that they already had exposures on those SMEs. And then we are telling them, we want you to take more risk on those SMEs. So we told them, ADF today is happy to cover the most important part of this additional exposure that you will take on those SMEs. And what we also did was to work with those banks to see how we can enhance their risk assessment approach to be able to take into account what were the impact of the pandemic. Because sometimes one of the challenge is always the perception gap. The risk is at a certain level, but some banks, they will always think that is way higher than where the real risk is. So it was to work together with them to see how we can have a better estimate, a better assessment of where the real level of risk is.
Okay, so Jules, I mean, this means it's a complete change of mindset. And I know that you work with both the banks and the SMEs, and obviously here the banks had to take new risks and change the way they thought about SMEs, and also the SMEs had to react in a different, to a situation that they've never experienced before. But tell us a little bit about capacity building, because I know it's part of your remit, and what you guys are doing both at the bank level and at the SME level to be able to be more agile and to understand the market better, both from the bank perspective and also how to operate from an SME perspective.
Yes. Yes, definitely. When we talk about guarantee, we tend to see only the risk sharing component. But beyond that, there is an element that is very important, is the information gap and the knowledge gap between banks and SMEs. For the banks, there is a question that they are always trying to answer is how can they better understand and assess SMEs? And on the SME side is how can they be more attractive to banks? And this is where capacity building play a huge role. So when we do capacity building towards banks, it's mainly to help them to enhance their information system, their risk policy, their risk management tool. And that was very critical during this pandemic. The discussion we had with the bank was what can we do to move away from the traditional way of analyzing risk? Because all the concepts have totally changed during this pandemic, is to see what will be the better way to analyze the impact of the pandemic. Because banks, they always try to go towards like the perceived risk, and where the real risk sometimes is way lower. So it was to sit down with the bank and see how can we work together with them to improve the way we analyze risk, the way we look at the risk, to avoid having a huge perception gap. That is the gap between the perceived risk and the real risk. And also we work together with the bank to help them to develop new products. For example, there might be sometimes some specific segment of the SME that we are targeting. I'll give you an example. We started the program called AFAWA with the African Development Bank. So we use also capacity building to work with the bank to offer this new type of product that are dedicated for a specific program. For example, they will ask us, okay, what is it a women-friendly business? What is a climate-friendly business? So together we work on that definition, and then we tell them exactly what are the criteria, what are the eligibility criteria for those type of SME. And this is where the capacity building can play a huge role. We also do capacity building towards SMEs. That will be mainly to help them to manage their business processes. We review their business plan. We improve the way they do bookkeeping. We train them, we mentor them, and more importantly, we link them to the banks that we already have in our portfolio.
And Jules, lastly, one question on tech. I mean, tech has been the big story of the past year, or at least fintech, and is defining the way we live ultimately. I mean, we've seen it this past year. So how do you see tech changing what you're doing, and how banking will change, and how it will evolve with SMEs as well?
Yes, definitely. We talk about tech, but when you run a business, there are three components that are very critical. The first one is access to market. So how do you reach your potential customer? The second component is access to resources, mainly access to finance. The third component is access to knowledge. That will be mainly like innovation. What will drive innovation? New product kind of offering. So if I start with access to market, today with technology, we have seen that the intermediaries are disappearing more and more. When you take B2B, business to business, business to customer, in the past we used to have a lot of intermediaries between businesses and customer. Today, a business based in Kenya, they can easily contact another business partner in Europe, in the US. Thanks to technology, you have a lot of platforms today online where they can have access to all these new market. So because of that, the transaction costs are reduced and they have access to a broad range of customer base. Now, when we go to access to resources, which is mainly access to finance, one of the biggest challenges when it comes to access to finance is understanding the risk that the financial institution they are taking when they are funding SMEs. But today, with big data technology, artificial intelligence, they have today all these tools to be able to understand the customer behavior compared to the traditional way of doing the risk assessment. Now, and you also have the blockchain technology, which can secure payment and also help those banks to manage assets, mainly to manage collateral, because one of the biggest challenges that the banks are facing is that how do they make sure that an SME will not use the same collateral with many banks. Today, with this blockchain technology, they can have access to like the same database, and get information on how those SME they are managing their collateral. When it comes to the movable collateral, this can be very critical. And then the last one is access to knowledge. Today we have all this training material online. We have the online courses. Today an SME, they want to train their staff on corporate governance, on marketing, on finance tool. They have access to all this training material online. So technology definitely is very key to be able to leapfrog and move to the next level.
Fantastic. Yes. It's inspiring and good times ahead, therefore, for SMEs and banks to work more effectively, more efficiently, and hopefully to continue leading the way in terms of transformative growth. Thank you very much, Jules. Jules Ngankam, our CEO of African Guarantee Fund, our platinum sponsor. Thank you for your support, as always, Jules. Great to see you. And despite the tough year, you're looking younger than when I last saw you. So that's a good sign too.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jules. See you very soon in Nairobi, I hope. Thank you.
And see you very soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Over to you, Henry.
Merci, Jules and Omar, for that insightful conversation. Now, our next award celebrates an African bank or institution that has contributed the most to financial inclusion. And a warm round of congratulations to Trust Merchant Bank DRC. So, mesdames et messieurs, the next award goes to the African Bank, which has brought the most innovative practices to industry, particularly through the use of technology. Let's discover the nominees and the winner for the innovation in financial services.
Bank of Industry, transforming Nigeria's industrial sector.
Congratulations then go to Bank of Industry for their award-winning Government Enterprise Empowerment Programme. Omar, we're making really good progress through the awards. Maybe now's a good time to think about the judges and the way in which they score the entries.
Thank you, Henry. Yes, really, we need to thank the judges who spend a long time. It's a grueling process. They receive 200 pages of documentation from the nominees, and they have to go through all this documentation and score the different entries. So really, a great thanks to financial expert Toyin Sani, based in Nigeria. Also Zem Nagatu, who's a seasoned African expert. We've got Christopher Harland Peel, formerly at Exotics, a emerging market specialist. We've got a capital markets expert, Tom Minnie. We've got Rebecca Enonchong, who's a Cameroonian tech enthusiast. You will have seen her on social media, but also a chartered accountant by training, so she understands numbers. Jean-Louis Ekra, former president of the Afrexim Bank. And last year's African banker icon, Vivian Shobo, who was CEO of ratings agency Augusto in Nigeria. Last but not least, the foremost expert in banking in Francophone Africa, Alain Lenoir. So really, it's a grueling process, as I said. They probably spend a week going through all this documentation. It's interesting entries, but they do it because they want to support African excellence. And I'd like to thank them for their work, their tireless work, and also for their tireless support for our group and the African Banker Awards.
Tremendous. That sounds like a stellar panel. So if you enter year after year and you don't win, don't worry, just keep on trying. So hopefully one of these judges will consider that your entry is of sufficient quality to win, hopefully.
Well, Henry, it's not just about winning. This is like the Olympics. So being part of the process and being nominated is an achievement in itself.
Omar, thank you very much. Time now for a quick advertising break. When we come back, more from the African Banker Awards 2021. Now, the African Banker Icon Award is special indeed. It recognises someone who's not necessarily a banker, but who's contributed in a meaningful way to banking, finance or markets. This year's winner is notable for his work at Renaissance Capital. He's helped shape thinking about the continent and how economists and investors discuss investment in Africa. By framing this new narrative, he's helped position the continent as a serious investment destination. Ladies and gentlemen, our African Banker Icon of the Year is... Congratulations to Charlie Robertson, who's with Omar right now. Omar, over to you.
Charlie, I am delighted to be giving you the African Banker Icon Awards for the 2021 edition of the African Banker Awards. So African Banker Icon is chosen by the organizing committee, and I think you're the first non-African to get it. We've once given it to an institution, Citibank, for their work in training and developing so many top-ranking bankers that are leading some of the biggest banks today in Africa. But I think you're the first non-African recipient of the African Banker Icon. And really, we feel that in the past 10 years or so, you've transformed research and thinking around Africa. And you may not be African in terms of a passport holder, but we consider you as an African brother who's championed the African cause. And really, you know, I can't say I look forward to your tweets as much as I used to look forward to Donald Trump's, but I do look forward to your tweets and your research papers. And it's really fascinating in terms of the angles that you take. and the things that you bring to light. So congratulations, Charlie. Maybe you want to say a few words, and then I'll ask you one or two questions if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm totally honoured and surprised. So I really, really appreciate this. I know people probably say this quite a lot in these circumstances, but it really wouldn't have been possible without the team I work with. Our head of African research, Yvonne Mahango, has taught me so much about Africa. I can't begin to express what a debt I owe her. The team we've got in Kenya, in Nigeria, Cairo, South Africa, the friends I've made in Zambia and Ghana and Zimbabwe, all over. So there's been a huge amount of support. The work that I've done has been massively dependent on the help and assistance and ideas and the challenges that colleagues have brought me. So I have to say this is owed far more to the people I work with perhaps than me just directly. So, but I really, really appreciate the honour, and it's wonderful to be put anywhere close to someone like Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala. I think was one of the first people to get the award from you. That's a privilege.
Well, it's awarded to champions of the banking sector and people who are transforming the way we look at banking and finance on the continent. And last week, my father was telling me that a great economist and writer, De Bono, passed away. And he was the author of Lateral Thinking. And when I look at your research, I seem to look at it, it seems to have a sort of a lateral thinking approach to it. So can you tell us a little bit about how you guys and your team approach research in general?
I guess what marks some of what we do apart is that we are constantly meeting companies and banks. It's not just, for us, macro research isn't just about trying to work out where GDP is going or inflation figures. It's about trying to understand why GDP is doing what it's doing and trying to integrate what companies and banks are telling us. So a whole host of the work in recent years has been this issue of lack of finance. Why is there a lack of savings? And each time I get one of these questions that I'm asking, and the problems that companies and banks are telling us, we then have to delve into the macro research and to take that from any source. What's worked in Asia? What hasn't worked in Latin America? What experience can I bring that I've looked at Eastern Europe for over 25 years? Is there any experience from that which feeds into this? So it helps to have had a broader emerging market background for 25 years when we're looking at Africa, but it really helps to be talking to people on the ground on a really regular basis, to have all our conferences in Africa about Africa and to be asking and to try and answer questions. It's about having a lot of curiosity, I think, not coming in with pre-existing kind of structural ideas about what should be. It's about asking what is and trying to answer the questions about why from that perspective.
Okay, fantastic. Look, I was looking at your book, The Fastest Billion, the other day, and I was looking at the publishing date. I wanted to see how old it was, and I saw it, first published, I think, in 2012, which means you probably started writing it maybe 10 years ago. I mean, you had predictions there. One of the predictions, or one of your theses, I think, that you continue to push is, what countries need to look at education and birth rates. So reducing the birth rate, increasing education if you want that rapid growth. So when you look back at the Fastest Billion and the predictions, and so what are your thoughts, and maybe you're adjusting those predictions today?
Well, the most important chapter probably was the one about education. There's been such a transformation on the continent where roughly 20% of people could read or write at the time of independence of many countries in 1960. Only a fifth of most countries could do that. And the work we've done since then has confirmed just how important that is, and what an important lag there is, that if you get adult literacy right, then decades, even a century later, you can still see that in the GDP figures. But what we've done more work on, and I've been writing a book this year, which I hope to find an agent for soon, is looking at some of the other challenges. Electricity. You do need 300 kilowatt hours of electricity per person, and too many countries still don't have that. Nigeria still hasn't got that. Kenya still hasn't got that. And you can't industrialize without it. And that's then led us to the question of, well, why not? Why does China have electricity but Nigeria not? And it comes to savings. And led to why aren't the savings there? And that then led to our demographic research that we actually only published in 2019, showing that the countries where there's a high fertility rate, 4, 5, 6 children per woman, don't have savings because people don't have savings. And when the fertility rate drops, whether it's China in the 70s or 80s or Morocco in the 1990s, then savings boom, interest rates come down, and suddenly you can go to a country like Morocco with fantastic rail infrastructure, plenty of electricity, and that country's industrializing and doing very well. And as we see the fertility rates come down, we start to see the growth accelerate. And this is, I think, quite a different way of looking at demographics. It's not saying there's a great demographic dividend from having lots of young people. It's saying there's a great demographic dividend from having lots of young people and then not having quite so many in the future. That's where Asia's been at for 20 years or more now, and it's where Africa is going to be when the fertility rates are brought lower.
Fantastic. That's exactly the original thinking that we were talking about, and that we've been following and reading with so much pleasure and interest over the past 10 years. So once again, congratulations, Charlie. Thanks for your insights. We look forward to your book. And I'll plug again The Fastest Billion, which is still relevant today, actually.
Thank you so much. And again, I'm totally honored and feel a great privilege. So thank you.
And thank you to all your colleagues. I know it's not one person's work, the research, but it's under your leadership and under your guidance. And that original thinking and curiosity is, and you challenging your team is what keeps them going. So thank you very much, Charlie, and congratulations.
Cheers, pleasure.
Thank you. Have a great day. Thank you. Bye.
And you, bye.
Now to Finance Minister of the Year. And our winner has demonstrated remarkable leadership. His swift action helped cushion his country from the economic impact of COVID-19 and ensured an effective response to the crisis, including a new fund to boost its social security. But just as important have been measures to help industry become self-reliant on PPE, for example, and to ensure an effective vaccination rollout. All these steps have made his country an international example to emulate. And the winner is... So felicitations to His Excellency Mohammed Ben Shaboon, Finance Minister of the Year. Omar, I believe you managed to catch up with the Honourable Minister only yesterday, I think, by Zoom.
Yes, by the reliable Zoom. I caught up with His Excellency the Minister and I asked him about Morocco's response to COVID-19. Excellence, Monsieur le Ministre, félicitations encore une fois pour avoir gagné le trophée du ministre des Finances de l'année des African Banker Awards 2021. Vous avez vraiment accompli beaucoup de choses cette année et encore une fois, félicitations, Monsieur le Ministre.
Merci beaucoup.
Excellence, le Royaume du Maroc cette dernière année semble avoir eu un plan d'action coordonné, décisif et très ambitieux. À quoi attribuez-vous votre succès, la protection des vies et de l'économie cette dernière année?
Et pour faire face à la pandémie et pour limiter la propagation du virus, le Maroc a très tôt pris un certain nombre de mesures extrêmement strictes sur le plan sanitaire, mais ce qui était important, c'est qu'il a pris en même temps des mesures pour limiter l'impact et l'atténuer pour ce qui concerne l'aspect économique et social. Et sur le plan pratique, il y a eu deux actions immédiates qui ont été prises en mars 2020. D'abord, la création d'un fonds spécial pour la gestion de la pandémie Covid-19, et ce fonds qui a été initié sur appel de Sa Majesté le Roi à l'époque a créé un élan de solidarité extraordinaire et nous avons disposé de quelques 4 milliards de dollars en l'espace de quelques semaines. Donc c'est une mobilisation des institutionnels privés et publics, mais aussi des populations, des personnes physiques, et cela a donné donc au Maroc les moyens de pouvoir financer les opérations d'accompagnement, de soutien à ceux qui en avaient besoin. Et la deuxième chose, c'est la création d'un comité de veille économique que j'ai eu l'honneur de présider, qui était composé d'un côté des ministres concernés et de l'autre côté des représentants du secteur privé et du système bancaire. Et ils se réunissaient très souvent pour d'un côté avoir l'œil vigilants sur les indicateurs et leurs évolutions. Et de l'autre côté, il y a des prises de décision qui se faisaient pratiquement de façon hebdomadaire pour tenir compte justement de l'évolution des choses. Et globalement, ce qu'on peut dire, c'est qu'il y a eu 100 000 crédits garantis par l'État pour 8 milliards de dollars et il y a eu 5 millions de ménages qui ont été aidés durant cette pandémie, ce qui a donné lieu à 20 millions d'opérations d'aide et qui constituent un peu plus de 2 milliards de dollars.
Excellence, vous êtes un ancien banquier. Quel message avez-vous pour les PDG de banques aujourd'hui, tenant compte à la fois le point de vue d'un acteur majeur du secteur public en tant que ministre et celui de PDG d'une banque comme vous l'étiez?
Écoutez, cette crise pandémique nous a montré à travers ce que je viens de dire, c'est-à-dire ce comité de veille économique qui regroupe le privé et le public, qu'il y a moyen de travailler ensemble de manière intelligente et de mobiliser les moyens de l'État au profit de développement économique et social. Et ce qui n'était pas possible à faire en plusieurs mois, voire plusieurs années, était rendu possible dans le cadre de cette nouvelle façon de travailler, en ayant recours d'un côté aux nouvelles technologies de façon massive, et de l'autre côté en jouant les synergies entre la volonté des pouvoirs publics d'aller de l'avant et l'accompagnement du secteur privé de manière générale et du système financier en particulier. Vous savez que quand vous avez des projets qui ne sont pas financés, ce sont juste des vœux, ils sont mort-nés. Et quand vous avez des liquidités sans projet en face, ben vous avez simplement de la spéculation qui prévaut. Et par conséquent, il est fondamental que l'ambition de développement économique et social des pouvoirs publics soit mise en face à travers le levier que peut jouer le système financier dans le cadre d'une approche intelligente où les risques sont véritablement partagés dans une approche faire.
Now, the next award will go to the energy deal, which has had the most significant impact. The winning deal has demonstrated a clear alignment to the African Development Bank High Five agenda, Light Up Africa. Here are the nominees and the winner. Congratulations to the African Trade Insurance Agency for a new blueprint in renewable energies investment in Burundi and Malawi. Now, the next winning deal also demonstrates a clear alignment with the African Development Bank High Five agenda, Feed Africa. Congratulations to Afreximbank for the $400 million facility to the Export Trading Company Group. Now, the next award goes to an institution which has catalysed considerable funding into Africa's private sector and promoted enterprise by facilitating credit and access to finance for SMEs. It's done so by expanding focused lines of credit, providing technical assistance to development institutions, and by building SMEs' capacity by linking them to potential investors. Let's discover the nominees and the winner.
African Guarantee Fund believes in the potential of SMEs to drive Africa's growth. While SMEs make up over 80% of Africa's private sector, lack of adequate financing presents a huge barrier to their growth. Operating in over 40 countries, we have unlocked more than $2 billion of financing, impacting over 20,000 SMEs, most of which are run by youth and women. Our commitment to empowering women-owned and led SMEs has allowed us to implement the Affirmative Finance Action for Women in Africa, AFAWA, which has a strong financial backing from G7 countries and African Development Bank. As our continent continues to fight the COVID-19 pandemic, our response is aimed at reducing the uncertainties facing financial institutions in Africa during this period. AGF has launched a COVID-19 guarantee facility that provides commercial stimulus to the financial sector with the aim of mitigating the deterioration of SMEs' perceived risk. Partner with us today and let's drive Africa's growth. African Guarantee Fund, a guarantee for African growth.
Félicitations EcoBank, African SME Bank of the Year. Now to Best Regional Bank in Africa. And this award is for those institutions that have excelled in the banking industry in their respective regions, but whose footprint may be smaller than some of their peers. All the same, what we're rewarding is excellence in banking, contributing to a stronger financial sector. Let's have a look at the winners. And now we're going to celebrate the most innovative and best achieving investment bank operating in Africa. Let's have a look at the nominees and the winner. Congratulations to ABSA South Africa, Investment Bank of the Year. Next up, we have an exclusive performance from the Grammy Award-winning artist Angelique Kidjo, coming to us live from her home studio.
Hello everyone, my name is Angelique Kidjo. I would like to dedicate this song Kelele to all the winners of this prestigious prize. Enjoy. Aburo mi mojarella katishe ishe ojami. Aburo mi mojarella katishe ishe ojami. Iwani omola omo baba. Iwani omola omo baba. Iwani omola omo baba. Laroni mondo shisho. Aburo mi mojarella katishe ishe ojami. Aburo mi mojarella katishe ishe ojami. Iwani omola omo baba. Iwani omola omo baba. Iwani omola omo baba. Daroni molo shisho. Logun odun rere. Ba jeni logun odun rere. Ba jeni logun odun rere. Ba jeni logun odun rere.
Industry, transforming Nigeria's industrial sector.
Merci Angelique for bringing some of that Beninois heat, la chaleur beninoise, to our London studios. Omar, were you warmed up by that?
I was warmed up by Angelique, but not by seeing you dancing, Henry.
Thank you, Omar. Now, the Governor of the Reserve Bank of South Africa cannot join us today, but this citation explains why he's being presented with this award. South Africa plays an important role in setting the tone with international investors, and having respected and independent institution, such as the South African Reserve Bank, is therefore of significance, not only to South Africa, but to Africa as a whole. Under Governor Kinyago's leadership, the Reserve Bank has managed to act decisively to not only deal with the issues of price stability, but provide the support needed to help cushion the blow from COVID. At the same time, whilst Governor Kinyago has acted swiftly, he's also shown restraint. The bank's regime has also encouraged new players and technological innovations that will contribute to greater financial inclusion. So congratulations, Your Excellency Kanyako, especially for winning this award during the bank's centenary. Now, the winner of our Lifetime Achievement Award is a passionate Afro-optimist. He's a banker whose career has also reflected his belief in Pan-Africanism and in an integrated continent. He's worked for multiple banks in West Africa and has also been an innovator, creating a new model for lending to the real economy and especially SMEs. Our winner continues to support African enterprise and innovation. He's respected and liked by his peers, so they'll be pleased to know our winner is... We're delighted to present our Lifetime Achievement Award to Mr. Felix Bikpo, who recently stepped down as CEO of the African Guarantee Fund. He's created an institution that is helping to support thousands of businesses. Omar, over to you.
Felix, félicitations. Congratulations once again for winning our Lifetime Achievement Award. I'm delighted to have you here with us. Look, lifetime generally gives you perspective, and your distinguished career definitely gives us a new perspective. And I didn't know actually that you worked so hard working on the integration of the continent through finance, working at EcoBank, Access Bank, Banque Atlantique as well. So look, you've, as I said, you've had a distinguished career. So, and over this career, what are the promising changes that you've seen over the span of your work and over all these years in banking in West and continental Africa?
Thank you, Omar. First of all, I would like to thank SC Publication for this award. I'm honored. I don't know if I deserve it, but I'm really, really honored for that. To answer to your question, I can say that a lot of changes happened recently, changes that have yielded significant advance in computing and communication technologies, with a profound impact in our society, especially in Africa. Technology is transforming the way we work, the way we play, the way we interact with others. And from this technological capability, new industry, new business models are emerging. In Africa, can add to this technology issue, not an issue, good things, the quality of people in the workforce, more and more. That was clearly, we see this last years. Companies also are more and more very conscious of the importance of a good corporate governance. And finally, the continent is giving more and more space to the SME and understands that this should be really the engine of the future, the growth. So these are, for me, the promising changes that I've seen over this span of my career that's happened really recently.
Look, last year our Lifetime Achievement said this is not the first crisis, this is not the last crisis that we'll see. And you know, people like yourselves, you've seen many crises over the years. You've seen that we are resilient, that we can do things better. But from what you've just said, so technology, for example, I mean, this gives you reason for optimism, I suppose, in the years ahead of us. What's your perspective for the years ahead?
You know, it's not just technology. If you look at what's happened to the world, especially to the continent, this pandemic, COVID pandemic 19, it destroyed the entire economy and people's life. With no visibility, we believe that's the end of the life. But today, you can see that things are changing. The scientists are doing a lot of good things to be able to have this disease under control. So we can see some light happening. And I believe that in the coming, I can say in the next 2 to 3 months, the Nordic countries, I'm talking about the developed countries, will be able to open their economy and start producing. Start producing, meaning that they need also us as their biggest partner, I'm talking about the African continent, biggest partner, to be able to assist them in delivering what have to be delivered in terms of material, raw or change, or can I say some other type of product, to be able to help them to address the issue of the demand. And the world will come back. Africa will play its role by providing the resources. Africa will be able also to be part of the big change that's happening in the continent. You know, in the past, we look at the continent as just resource providers, but today what's happening? The entire world will think about how to handle the globalization. The continent were very resilient to this. That's the truth. How can I use this competitive advantage to play a better role for the continent? I see the future as being the future of the continent.
Fantastic. Look, you've had a distinguished career, as I said, but is there one particular achievement that you're most proud of?
That's not an easy one. I can say I'm deeply convinced that the future of our continent is how to fight with poverty. And if you look at my career, what I try to do is to work in some institution that can really finance the economy and use the economy, private sector, as the engine of the growth. Yes, my biggest achievement, according to me, was to be able to create the African Guarantee Fund, which was really something that was missing, to convince where the money is, that the best way to use your money is to finance the future big company of the continent. The best way to fight and to get better market in the future is to allow this SME to be able to play their role. And without this trust, no financier will be able to do that. Is that what we did at AGF? And at AGF, I was so happy to be able to put in place a strong business model and operation strategy that convinced, that gave trust the financial sector in the continent. I was able, and I was very happy for that, to bring high quality of people from abroad, young African, to come to believe on the project and understand that we are playing for the future of our continent and creating something that will take into account our culture and our way of doing things. This is key. This was AGF. And this was recognized by the financial market, in the financial industry, to say, yes, that's the company. This is why you can see one of the reasons that we got our AA rating. For me, it was an extraordinary experience that showed that to be able to develop our continent, we need to look inside the continent. And AGF is one of my biggest pride. Yes, I contributed to several financial institutions, we say EcoBank, Access, and Access Bank, and all the others. I was on this institution to be able to help them from scratch to build a good network for the continent. Why? Because all the challenges to be able to reduce the banking rate in Africa. And I contributed a lot to make this happen, and I'm very proud of that. And when you see outside some banking group that become very good, very big, and I know that when we started, you just have sometimes just a pen and a piece of paper, you're proud. You're proud of having contributed to this achievement.
Fantastic. Well, once again, many congratulations, Felix. And congratulations for building an institution, ensuring a smooth succession as well, despite the pandemic. But congratulations for all that you've done in West Africa and in Africa more generally. Thank you. Over to you, Henry.
Industry, transforming Nigeria's industrial sector.
We now come to the category of African Bank of the Year. And this award goes to the bank which has demonstrated high performance across the board. This year, we were particularly keen to reward an institution working hard to empower women, as well as extend support to the real economy. And ladies and gentlemen, congratulations to all nominees and the winner of the African Bank of the Year 2021. And now to our final award, African Banker of the Year. The nominees, please. And we're delighted to have Mr. Herbert Wigwe with us, one of the key architects of Access Bank's irresistible rise to the top of African banking. And he's with Omar now.
Herbert, congratulations. This is the second year in a row that you've been chosen to be the African Banker of the Year by our esteemed panel of judges. Congratulations for everything that you're doing. If I'm correct, you've become the largest retail bank in Africa with over 40 million customers, and your relentless pursuit for growth is mirrored by your recent entry in the South African market. So I wanted to ask you, what drives you as a person on this relentless pursuit for growth?
Well, first of all, let me thank you, for the very warm congratulations you sent across. But I think the reality is that we're just focused on our 5-year corporate strategic plan, and we are very disciplined in our pursuit to be Africa's gateway to the world by 2022. And what that means is that we need to be in the key markets in the continent. We need to be in the key trading centers in the continent, because Africa's gateway to the world means a couple of things. Number one, you must be seen to be that bank that is basically supporting intra-African trade. You must be that point of settlement for inter-African trade coming from overseas as well. And also, of course, as far as diaspora remittances and internal payments in the continent is concerned, you need to be there. So all we're interested in doing is making sure that we basically are present in the key areas of the continent. Now, what is driving us? I mean, the point is we're trying to show that as bankers, as professional bankers, we are just as good as any banker anywhere in the world, and that we can create, coming out of Africa, a new oasis of sanity. We can create an institution that will, over time, compete with the largest players in the world, whether it's HSBC or Citibank or JP Morgan. One day in time, it will happen. But we start by making sure that within our continent, everybody sees and knows that we have a strong powerhouse that is supporting trade and making sure that the entire financial services sector is operating seamlessly, and that there's increased contribution to financial deepening.
That's fantastic. I mean, for me, the words that stand out are discipline and also the ambitions to think big and to aim big, those moonshot projects, as we like to call them. So look, women and gender-related issues are something that we value very highly within our judging criteria. And I see that Access has launched a number of initiatives there. Maybe you can share with us your experience in terms of the gender agenda and what you guys are doing.
Well, you know, issues of gender are very important to us. Issues of gender sustainability and things like that. You know, there's an award which comes up every year in Germany, which is basically the Karlsruhe Award, which is basically to celebrate excellence as far as sustainability is concerned, and gender is an integral part of it. I think we've won that award consistently for 8 years. And the reason I'm giving you this background is that it's not something, it's not cliche, it's something that we believe in and we've lived through over time. The first time we started doing things that had to do with gender was in 2006, making it what? I don't know, 15 years ago. And we worked together with the IFC to set up a small fund at that time to support female entrepreneurs and aspiring female entrepreneurs. And we came up with some yardsticks about how many women we're going to transform and get them to become big players. And I think it was extremely successful. And it marked very, very, very low levels of non-performing loans. Now, we learned from that whole process that it was not just money. It had to do with other things. It had to do with training. It had to do with making sure that we could basically get women to understand how to run a proper business. And for the more successful women or larger women, we could help them on issues that had to do with governance. So it started from financial and then to the non-financial aspect. Having picked up all of that, we basically sent most of our people for training to areas and to institutions where this thing had also happened. We did one in Australia and all. And we came back and improved on that practice. And then today we now have what we call the W community, which is about inspiring, connecting, and empowering women. So it's no longer just a financial thing. Finance is an integral part of it, but it's about training, it's about mentorship, it's about women connecting with themselves and sharing with themselves issues that are peculiar to that particular gender. I think today you probably will have, I don't know, maybe about 5-6 million women on that platform and more. But we've taken it far beyond Nigeria. We've taken it to other parts of the continent where we're present, and we've expanded the scope. So I give you a simple example. If a woman wanted to meet a female doctor through the W community and the platform that has been created, she will meet a female doctor. There are also products to help couples to complete their families. All right. So, you know, whether it is supporting them from a medical standpoint and all of that, things that in the past would have been extremely difficult to discuss. We know how to work with them together with their spouses, all right, complete their families, work with them in accredited medical centers or medical hospitals, making sure that the standards are appropriate for all of that. So we're so neck deep in gender-related issues, far beyond what any other institution, definitely in the continent, and perhaps actual, you know, for most, you know, of the world that people can think about. And the whole idea is, in the context of Africa, if you support a woman, if you build a woman, if you train a woman, basically you've trained the whole family, because women have a pivotal role as far as the family unit is concerned.
Fantastic. That's really great to hear. And you're absolutely right. They're the ones who are educating the future leaders of today. So look, Herbert, congratulations. When I speak to other bankers on the continent and also investment bankers across the world, I say which bankers stand out, and your name often crops up. So this award, I'm sure, is I know it's very well deserved. Congratulations once again. Second year in a row to our African Banker of the Year, Herbert Wigwe, Group CEO of Access Bank. Thank you, Herbert.
Thank you very much. I'm just extremely pleased because I'm supported by a very strong team. I don't think most of this is deserved by me alone. I think, you know, many congratulations to my team as well, who have been responsible for achieving whatever we've achieved over the past year.
Thank you. Thank you. Henry, over to you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, mesdames et messieurs, our 2021 edition of the African Banker Awards has come to an end. Congratulations to all our winners and participants. I've enjoyed being your host, and I've also enjoyed connecting in person with my long-standing friend and group publisher, Omar Ben Yedda. Thank you to all our sponsors. Please do let us know if you'd like us to connect you with them. And before we officially close this year's edition, let's enjoy one last song from Edina. Thank you all for watching the ceremony, and we hope to see you in person next year.
Check 1, 2. Playlist babe. Let me talk to them. Hey, listen. Life is short, oh, so you for live and well, oh. If you get the chance, oh, cafe door. My body for hustle, well, oh. So life go be jaja, oh. If you never know what you really want, it never go be jaja, oh. I'm on my way to the top. I never fear no one else stop. I ain't thinking to fall back. I keep on moving, I'm on track. I'm on my way to the top. I never fear no one ever stop. I ain't thinking to fall back. I keep on moving, I'm on track. Life the so naughty. You're no let mommy. Stay true to who you are. Yes, I'm sorry. My body for hustle, well, oh. So life go be jaja, oh. If you never know what you really want, it never go be jaja, oh. My body for hustle, well, oh. So life go be jaja, oh. If you never know what you really want, it never go be jaja, oh. If you really mean it, let me hear you sing it. If you really mean it, let me hear you sing it. If you really mean it, let me hear you sing it. If you really mean it, life is short, oh, so you for live and well, oh. If you get the chance, I am in cafe door. My body for hustle, well, oh. So life go be jaja, oh. If you never know what you really want, it never go be jaja, oh. My body for hustle, well, oh. So life go be jaja, oh. Ooh, jaja, oh. So life go be jaja, oh. I'm on my way to the top. I'm on my way. I'm on my way. Thinking to fall back. I keep on moving, I'm on track. I'm on my way to the top. I never feel moving, I never moving. I ain't thinking to fall back. I keep on moving, I'm on track. My body for hustle, well, so life go be jaja, go, jaja, yeah. My body for hustle, well, so life go be jaja, go, jaja.